This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might get ready in their own way, we prepare by doing karate in the mirror of our dressing room. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I write about films for my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks, and I'm a member of the North Texas Film Critics Association, as well as the International Film Society Critics. No.
Sorry. I'll stop at karate. Sorry.
That's great. You could hear me guest on other pods of the David Thulis of podcasting. I'm Joe Moe, my brother and common man co-host, a man who just wanted to get some late night donuts. Jake Miller, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Oh, man, what a great start to this episode. If you haven't already guessed by our little back and forth there, the film today is we're going to try to stay as, I guess, as muted as we can for this film. I mean, we already have the parental, listener discretion is already
but
prepare. Yeah, just prepare everybody. So we're talking about Boogie Nights today. Go ahead.
I will say, I know we already have I know I'm a potty mouth and
yeah.
Okay. But this one, no kiddos. Okay.
Yeah, please. This is very inappropriate for children podcast episode. So please, skip this one.
You shouldn't let your children watch any of these. But if there's one you don't allow, it's this.
It's like, okay, maybe the Elf episode one thing. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, this is one you definitely skip over. Yeah. Talking about Boogie Nights, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, written by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, Heather Graham, and Burt Reynolds, co-starring 1,000 character actors: William H. Macy, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Luis Guzman, Melora Walters, Nicole Ari Parker, Thomas Jane, Robert Ridgely, Alfred Molina, and Philip Baker Hall. Opened at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 11th, 1996. There you go. Then right on 1997, excuse me. Went wide on October 10th, 1997. Considering the content of this film, did really well financially. 26.4 million US, 16.7 international, 43 million on a $15 million budget. Very well across the board. Critical notices, 3 Oscar nominations. Best Supporting Actor for Burt Reynolds, who lost to Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. Best Supporting Actress for Julianne Moore, who lost to Kim Basinger in LA Confidential. And then Best Original Screenplay, which also lost to Good Will Hunting. On Rotten Tomatoes, 93% critics, 89% audience. I thought the audience was going to be way more split than this. It was actually a little surprising that the audience actually had this high of an approval rating. So this is the first time you'd seen this, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
I'd never seen this before.
Okay, so this is it's not exactly a film that I revisit a lot, but it's an exceptional film that I've seen a bunch, and it's definitely not the first time I've seen this. So I'll do a quick plot summary of Boogie Nights. Plot wise, it's not exactly. It's kind of a free flowing, just the idea of kind of 1977 to 1984 of how the slice of life. So in 1977, high school dropout Eddie Adams, played by Mark Wahlberg, is working at a club, and he is discovered essentially by porn director Jack Horner, played by Burt Reynolds, and essentially gives him he's like, well, I think, just kind of gets a feeling of everything, and then it's like, well, you should start doing porn. And that essentially opens the door for him to become a big porn star. And in the porn community, there is Amber Waves, played by Julianne Moore, the big name starlet. There's another girl named Roller Girl, played by Heather Graham, who never takes off her roller skates. John C. Reilly as Reed Rothschild. It's Eddie's best friend. Eddie, by the way, takes the stage name Dirk Diggler. Reed Rothschild as his best friend, also porn actor, but in no way like a rival, just a friend. Don Cheadle as Buck Swope, the resident African-American porn star. Same thing with Becky Barnett, the African-American female porn star, played by Nicole Ari Parker. Philip Seymour Hoffman as Scotty J, a man, a boom operator who is in no way in love with Dirk Diggler, obviously. Production assistant Little Bill Thompson, played by William H. Macy, who is being cuckolded by his wife at every possible opportunity. There's Maurice, the club owner. There's the Colonel, played by Robert Ridgely, who essentially bankrolls all the movies, and he is actually he bankrolls the film aspect, which Jack is a big fan of. It's like the quality of it. Philip Baker Hall is kind of the other side, Floyd Gondoli, who wants everybody to change to videotape. And so things start out and it's almost an immediate success. Like, Dirk is a huge star. He's on top of the porn world. The 70s are awesome. And then the night of New Year's for 1980, everything kind of goes wrong. Amber introduces Dirk to cocaine, and that obviously is not a good way to go down. Little Bill, tired of his wife's infidelity, kills her lover, and then himself. And then the 80s start, and it's kind of all downhill from there. It's kind of where everything goes bad. Dirk has a dependence on cocaine, and he can't maintain an erection because of the cocaine. Amber loses complete custody to her child, which pretty fair if you ask me. Like, a lady who just cannot stop sniffing cocaine and is in constant porn. Don Cheadle trying to go legit, but is kind of discounted for the fact that he has a porn career. And then it just kind of, and you know, Jack's quality of films go down because of film. The Colonel is arrested for pedophilia and put in prison, or excuse me, not pedophilia. Yes, pedophilia and child pornography. And then so these things just kind of get worse and worse and worse, culminating with Dirk and Reed deciding to rob a local drug dealer with their friend Todd Parker, played by Thomas Jane. And they go in there and they try to steal the money, but the drug dealer kills Todd, and they all run off. And then they essentially go back and they're like, hey, I guess I need to start back at porn, be nicer to people. And it kind of just ends. It's not necessarily like a happy ending. It's just kind of an ending. Like, nobody necessarily gets off of drugs. Nobody stops doing porn. Nobody kind of turns their life around. It's just kind of like, it is what it is.
There's a little bit of catharsis at the end, because like John C. Reilly becomes a magician
at a strip club. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it's better than porn.
Yeah, but at the same time, he is still at the house in that last scene. So, so I guess the person with the best actual happy ending is probably Buck Swope, Don Cheadle's character, and his happy ending is due to just sheer force of luck. He goes to get donuts, and then a robber shoots it's a good gun control on that guy. He shoots a guy, he gets shot, he shots once in the back and then shoots forward again. So I mean, but he's actually the one that actually comes out with, I guess, the closest thing to a happy ending. But okay, so this is your first time seeing it. It's a lot. And as I was watching it I've seen this probably dozens of times. I watched it again and I was like, man, it's really not as graphic for porn as you would expect it to be.
Not really.
I guess there's just a level of desensitization with the kind of the stuff, the prevalence, and just kind of how, like, in 1997, this is like, man, this is wild stuff. And nowadays you're just like, it's just like everybody's just kind of faking it. The sex is not really the selling point. It's more of the business of porn. Right.
Yeah. But just the exposure to like that sleazy underground.
Yes.
It's gross.
Well, yeah,
I mean, like, you're
yeah,
making money off of people banging on camera.
And not to mention, there's an audition.
There's lots of drugs. It's not pretty.
And there's an audition essentially where Mark Wahlberg's like, Burt Reynolds is like, well, I want to see what you do. It's like, hey, roller girl, come over. It's like, I'm going to sit here and smoke while you do this. It's like, so
yeah,
I mean,
and I really hated how she called Burt Reynolds dad.
Yeah, it's like a lot of that. It's like it's there's an undercurrent. Like nothing about this is there's no trying of this movie to try to make porn a nice thing. It's not like, oh no, it's respectable. It's just like, nope. It kind of at no point, like even
it's not.
yeah, and even the kind of movie they make. It's like, oh, this is a movie. It's a real movie, Jack. It's even that is kind of like, well, it's the peak of what it could be, but it's still what it is. Like,
yeah, it's how do I say this? I feel like people that probably are in porn are people that want to have acting careers. And they felt like this was the foot in the door, maybe.
Yeah,
and
you got to make money somehow. I mean, but as it kind of shows, especially, it's 1977, and from the moment the world is introduced, there's just nothing but cocaine. I mean, it's just, I mean,
there's a lot of drugs.
There's so much cocaine, and obviously, when you start it, it's kind of hard to stop it, and at no point, like. And that was the other part of this. It's like nobody really gets, as far as we know, everybody's probably still using cocaine at the end of this movie.
Right. Yeah. No one comes clean and is like sitting around an AA table or something. Like,
but but the porn is the plot. It's the really interesting thing about this movie. It's very, even the sex aspects are very clinical. Business like. It's not people having sex for pleasure. It's not this thing. It's just like, nope, it's a very matter of factly, we do it for the sake of the camera, and then we move on with the rest of our lives, and it's not really something. It's a stock and trade.
Yeah, it's kind of like I mean, I've always been pretty artistic, pretty good at drawing, painting, things like that.
Yeah. And
I'd frequently get the comment, like when I was younger, is like, oh, you should be a professional artist and everything. Or, I love fishing.
Yeah.
But if I became a professional artist or a professional fisherman, it would completely ruin it. It becomes a job.
Yes.
It becomes something that's very mechanical, and I mean, there's no joy in it. You're just another cog in the machine, I guess. And so
I agree.
But your cog is just your.
And obviously, Dirk's claim to fame being that he has, like, from the first moment we meet him, he's like, okay, he's got this massive wiener, and this
is a movie about a dude with a big dong.
That's exactly what it is. Yep. That's what the movie, that's the appeal of the movie. That's the attraction of the movie, and the entire plot, like everything, essentially his ability to maintain an erection is kind of the signifier of how the movie, how things are going for the characters. It's like when things are going good, it's great. But man, whenever Coke comes in and things are going badly, you're just like, oh, this. I mean, okay, so I want to talk about something I noticed specifically on this time, and that's about some of the actors. There's a lot of great jobs in this movie of these actors, but more than anything else, especially John C. Reilly and Don Cheadle being the two who I noticed it the most. Mm-hmm. So Mark Wahlberg is kind of in the middle of, like, I feel like the director went from scene to scene being like, this is a comedy or this is drama. John C. Reilly treats it like a straight up comedy the whole time. He is, and so Don Cheadle does a lot too.
Well, that's what I thought. I love John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
But I was like, he's just funny in everything he does, even if he doesn't seem like he's meaning to.
Yes, I mean, even
He's
when
just
they're
unintentionally funny.
they're discussing, they're discussing the holdup, and he's just like, now with this, it's like, yes, I know he has drugs. It's like, okay, just checking. And it's like everything he does is hilarious, and Don Cheadle's kind of in the same boat. Everything he does is pretty funny too. Sitting there in the long dreads wig, or his conversation is like, are talking to John C. Reilly about magic. Is like, well, aren't you worried about having those, those dark forces and all those, like it, and the movie gets so heavy. It's kind of nice to have that little bit of levity in there.
Yes. Yeah. They definitely provide comedic relief, whether that was the intention or not.
Yeah.
But I was even thinking about like The Perfect Storm and John C. Reilly's performance in that.
Yeah.
Is like, I don't know, he's kind of funny in that too. Even though
there's certain people that just have
about a tragedy, but
it's the certain people that have that kind of persona, but he's always going to have that thing where you're like, he's kind of being ridiculous, and you can kind of see the ridiculousness whenever you're like, okay, especially in this movie, everything he did, like,
it's like he at some point he goes, I'm a goofy looking motherfucker, and I'm just going to see if I can ride this to the bank.
And boy, has he ever. He has moved it to the absolute peak of what it has. And that's the funny thing. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in a Scorsese movie. I'm like, okay, are you? Like, how's that work? Like, okay, well, that's the case. And before this, John C. Reilly had been in Paul Thomas Anderson's first movie, and he was in this, and then he was in subsequent John C. Reilly movies, or in Paul Thomas Anderson movies, and he's very serious in some of those. But I mean, so the other supporting actors in this movie that I really enjoyed, obviously, we'll get into Burt Reynolds a little later. Cheadle, obviously great. Heather Graham, very much she's probably the character that grows the least from kind of where she is and what we learn the most least about her. She's just like, well, you're an attractive woman who just wears roller skates all the time. There's Philip Seymour Hoffman is Scotty. I don't like Scotty as a character, but man, Philip Seymour Hoffman does such a good job as Scotty.
I love Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, I miss his work.
Yes. Yes.
Because I mean, he's done such serious stuff and just nailed it.
Yep.
But then he's also done something like Along Came Polly.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas my introduction to the term sharp came from that.
Yes. And he's
hilarious.
He's utterly ridiculous and hilarious. And he can do this weird little like side thing of like, okay, I'm going to be this weird kind of closeted guy but not like outwardly gay, and just kind of like awkward and just hanging around. And you're just like, it's almost repulsive by the awkwardly repulsive, but at the same time, but he does the other stuff he always does too. And you're like, man, he's so good in this movie. And I think, go ahead.
I think you kind of see Mark Wahlberg's character, even though he is basically sexually assaulted by this guy.
Yes,
he's still like,
it's okay. It's okay. It's like
he's still protective of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, it's all right, just chill out. And so I don't know. So that was kind of funny. It's like everyone knows he's creepy and weird, but he's part of the crew.
So as we were talking about John C. Reilly as well, I kind of go back to Mark Wahlberg as well, especially like the introduction, the movie introduction, whenever they're making their serious movie, and he does the karate and they freeze with his foot in the air. It was very much I was getting other guys vibes. And I was like, it's like maybe Wahlberg's in on the joke. But so I want to talk to you about Wahlberg. What are your feelings about him so this is post Marky Mark, but not far off. So we don't have any really history with Wahlberg as an actor going into this movie. So perspective wise, like nobody has any idea what Mark Wahlberg is. I can't decide if I love his performance or it just kind of was the perfect type of performance for the sake of what the movie needed.
I think he's very much, how do I put this? There's some movies he's perfect for. And there's some movies that I just think he is one of the worst actors. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
There's some like, and I hate to say this, but like Lone Survivor.
Yes.
Oh God. I just don't think he was very good in it.
It's like you
it's a
like
great
there's
story and it's a great movie,
and
but
you can
I'm
buy
just
the
like,
and you can buy the physicality and you can buy the general vibe, but it's like, but then he talks and you're just like, and
yeah.
Shooter, great example. A movie I like. I don't.
Yes.
He's not good in that movie. He's like, I'll watch that movie every time it's on TV, but he's just an abject not good in that movie. He's all swagger.
Yeah. That's a much better example even than Lone Survivor is. Yeah, he's in great stuff. And I've liked him in most of what he's been in, but just if I'm looking at it as objectively as I can, I'm like, he's not very good.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
kind of seems like a underwear model rapper tried some movies.
It's very much a perfect, like, the idea that nobody knew who Mark Wahlberg was going into this movie was actually perfect for the movie, because otherwise just like you have all this baggage. But in this case, you're like, oh, a sculpted man who seems like a friggin' idiot, but he uses what he has and makes it work. So the director, Paul Thomas Anderson, didn't want Mark Wahlberg. He wanted Leonardo DiCaprio. And this is pre-Titanic Leonardo DiCaprio. DiCaprio turned it down because he was going to be in Titanic. So
yeah,
and
he looked too young back then.
I agree. And this makes it a completely different movie. I don't think the movie can be about Dirk as the actor. Like, I think you need a lesser actor, like compared to DiCaprio specifically, like Wahlberg, to be able to kind of like mold him in the way you want. Everybody else would probably have too much baggage.
Yeah. And plus he's kind of playing he's playing a porn actor. And so it's like, you don't want this huge star.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like, you want the struggling guy that'll take any job he can get.
Yeah. You need that desperation.
Well endowed.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Yeah.
All right. Probably the same reason he became an underwear model and a white rapper.
Because he was in prison and like, yeah, it's just like, yeah. So you get that desperation to go along with it. Okay. So the two most acclaimed actors from this movie, Burt Reynolds being the number one, is Burt Reynolds. It's so interesting having an older Burt Reynolds in the 90s playing a older guy in the 70s, but still being Burt Reynolds. It's like he remembers all the fun, and he still has all that charisma. And Jack is by far the most, I guess, likable character, purely likable, based off he's so suave and he seems fairly intelligent, and he's very realistic.
Yeah, I feel like his character, he can kind of go, it is what it is.
Yes.
But he still cares about quality. Like,
yes.
He still, even though he knows he's in a seedy ass job.
Yep.
He still wants to be the best at what he's doing. Honestly, I can't think of another Burt Reynolds performance that is better than this.
Absolutely. And there's a reason. He's spectacular. This is the perfect situation for an actor at his age, with his persona, with his baggage, stepping into a role and just nailing every single aspect of it. He is so good in this movie.
He is.
So, okay. So I'll ask you this, because it was essentially, when it came to Oscar night, it was between Reynolds and Robin Williams. Williams ends up winning the Oscar, his only Oscar win. Knowing you've seen both movies, you have the, now with the full context, where do you fall on the Williams Burt Reynolds? Because I can go back and forth every day because it's an iconic performance by an iconic actor in both cases.
Ugh.
Man, that's
probably one I could answer it now and then answer it definitely differently tomorrow.
Sure. And I agree. And Reynolds
that's a good matchup.
So a little bit more behind the scenes for you. Burt Reynolds hated working on this movie. His agent said, hey, this upcoming director does this. He did not get along with Wahlberg. He didn't get along with Paul Thomas Anderson. He hated everything about the movie. As soon as it was done, he fired his agent. And he said, this is a disaster. This movie is going to make no money. My career is not exactly where I want it to be anyway. It's going to ruin it further. And then then it came out and everybody was like, man, Burt Reynolds is back. And it probably gave him another 15 years of a fruitful career. But that tension probably adds to the performance more. Now, the other one I like, it's Julianne Moore is the one who got a lot of the acclaim in this movie as Amber. Now, I was talking about the comedy of John C. Reilly compared to other people's kind of taking it more seriously. Julianne Moore doesn't snort cocaine in every scene, but she almost does. And
a lot of them.
and even the conversations where you're like, whenever Dirk is showing off his house, she has cocaine chatter and there's like, oh, that's nice. She nails every single aspect of this particular character and the spinning of, okay, what would a person in this life where nothing is going right and I'm just constantly snorting cocaine, what would it be like? But at the same time, somehow keeping this motherly figure over everybody.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, she is a maternal figure, no doubt. But it's kind of the maternal figure helping people go down the path of porn and heavy drug use.
It's like, hey, can I call you mom?
It's like,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than having no one, but
I mean, is it though? It's like
maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
I get, like I said, that court deposition scene where it's like, oh, you're going to lose your child. It's like, well, no, I'm a good mother. I want to meet my child and all this kind of stuff. And the husband is like, she's a pornographer. She does drugs. She gets arrested. And the judge is like, well, when's the last time you got arrested? And yes, you still have the sympathy, but at the same time, you're like, well, that judge made the correct decision.
Yeah.
That judge, by the way, played by an actual porn. There's some people with actual porn experience in this movie. I think Little Bill's wife was Nina Hartley, who was a famous porn actor in the 70s and 80s. And then the judge, I believe, was a porn actress as well. So and Little Bill's entire thing is, you don't talk about a guy who never has anything good happen to him. Just William H. Macy this entire time. He has that terrible haircut. His wife cannot stop banging dudes and doesn't care. Yeah.
I like that line is like, someone's trying to talk business with him. And he's like, my wife has a dick in her ass in the driveway. I'm like, then fucking do something about it, you little cuck.
And then at the end, when you're like, he should do something about it, and you're like, oh, he's getting a gun. He's like,
he did.
Oh, he did something about it. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Like, yep, you did what you're supposed to do.
Like, can't blame you, dude.
So this movie was originally supposed to, like, Anderson wanted this movie to be 3 hours long. And
it's long enough for me.
But so he cut out a lot of the stuff that's actually supposed to be, like, the Corvette being crashed was a cut scene. And Nicole Ari Parker as Becky, when she got married, he was actually supposed to be beating the hell out of her constantly, and Dirk was going to, like, intervene or something like that. But then that was kind of cut down for time. But there's a lot of those little further aspects of how badly this life goes down. So as far as, like, rock bottom goes, this movie has a couple rock bottom scenes back to back to back to back. Essentially, you have Dirk in the pickup truck in the church parking lot with the guy, and then you have which is not exactly a fun scene to watch. Then you have Roller Girl and Jack in the back of a limo with trying to do things on videotape with that creepy guy who they maybe kill. And then you have Buck going to the donut stop and getting the only fortuitous thing that happens in this movie. So it's kind of the rock bottom for most of the characters, with the exception of Dirk, who they did the holdup scene. So that entire scene, it's the classic scene. It's the scene that everybody talks about from this movie,
right?
Because you're in there, you're like, okay, we're gonna rob this guy. The Chinese kid throwing fireworks and scaring the hell out of everybody. Alfred Molina going on in his underwear singing Sister Christian. Just the tension. And so tell me about how you were feeling during that scene. You're just like, what is happening? And I'm petrified.
Have you ever been in those situations like where you're with a friend and you're at a house party or in a bar or something like that?
Yeah.
Things get tense, things are getting out of hand, and you're like, the cops are fixing to come, or
this feels wrong.
It's like, and you're just like, hey buddy, we need to go. Hey,
like, no, if there's one more drink.
Come on, bud. Come on, let's get you home. Come on. That's how it's like John C. Reilly and Mark Wahlberg's character was like, let's get the fuck out of here.
And then
count it in the car.
And then
he's counting money. He's like, count that in the car. Let's go.
And then come on. Then Mark Wahlberg's 1,000-yard stare into, oh no, it's like essentially he figured out a way. The situation was rough enough that he figured out a way to sober up through cocaine, being like, oh no, this is a terrible situation. And we all see it unfold in his face. And then it just all goes to pot so quickly. And with Sister Christian. And then what was after Sister Christian, Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield coming on.
Yeah.
Great scene.
Yeah.
Just the absolute tension of everything. That scene is based off the real life Wonderland murders with John Holmes. It's
right.
So I mean, obviously things have changed, and this is kind of based off of the life of Holmes in general. But what do you think of the movie? So are you a little? I realize the music in this movie very obvious, but kind of all works. Like no like B-sides. They're all hits. Like and it's a lot.
The music's good.
Yeah, the movie's great. Like
no, the music.
Yeah, the music's great.
Oh, okay. I thought you said movie.
So no, the music's great. No, like okay, so I wanted to ask you about their recording, their rock song. You Got the Touch. Mark Wahlberg's absolute inability.
Oh God. that was good. That's
just everything worked like.
But it's like, I mean, how many people do you know, like, especially like when you're in college or something, they're like, I'm pursuing a music career.
Are you? Yeah. Are you really gonna put
on the guitar when everyone's drunk and high, and you're like, all right. And see you on the big stage. There.
One of my favorite lines in the whole movie is John C. Reilly goes like, "They're your tapes. They're your tapes, but the magic on the tapes belongs to us."
That's IP. That's intellectual property. That genius.
The absolute the cocaine induced disillusionment of actually everybody feeling what this is. Okay, so let's talk about the last scene. So Mark Wahlberg's talking himself up, ready to go out there. He stands up, and it comes out. And what are you talking about? The last scene of the film.
What comes out, Ben?
His penis, Jake.
Oh, that scene. Okay, sorry.
Supposedly,
I didn't want us to be ambiguous about this.
No, not at all. I appreciate the clarity just for our viewers. Otherwise, they'd have been confused.
Yep.
I mean, whenever it's talked about. There's no real nudity from him in this movie. Obviously, that is not Mark Wahlberg's real penis. He, whenever he pulls it out, it was one of those things you're just like, that is comically absurd. It's you're just like
inconvenient.
It does seem very convenient. In real life, Mark Wahlberg still has it. He said, I believe it's green at this point, because it's like obviously the plastic over time. Yeah, it's certainly a fitting exclamation point to the end of that movie.
I don't know. That's the movie ends like you see a dong, a ridiculously large dong, and then you're like, okay. I was getting ready for bed, man. Like,
what a memorable thing to finish on. Okay, so you weren't a big fan. You weren't a big fan of this movie.
No, I don't like it at all. Stupid and gross.
I hate to break it to you. This is one of my top 10 movies probably of all time.
Nope.
I'm sorry.
This is one of those.
This is one of those we miss. This is okay. This is fun. I mean, this is why we do this thing because I can't expect you to love every movie that I bring to you, but I still love the experience of like, well, Jake, what are some memorable thoughts of that one? Yes,
man. I was a sex crimes detective for 3 years, and this movie grossed me the fuck out.
That's a good way to put it. That's yeah. I mean, it really says something. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back. We are back. Every week I go through the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass. For this week, we are going into the filmography of Oscar-winning redhead herself, Julianne Moore. This was her first Oscar nomination in this movie. I will not include that, so it's not gonna help your score much. So I'm sorry about that because nobody kind of goes back and forth between like art house things you never heard of and like big name stuff that you have heard of. But she had her career started back in 1990 with some movie called Tales from the Dark Side. Don't know about that one, but a movie you might have seen, the most prominent movie you've ever seen her in, at least early in career, The Lady Who Dies by Getting Killed by Glass in a Greenhouse from Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Do you remember Hand That Rocks the Cradle?
Yeah, I know I've seen it, but I don't specifically remember her.
It's the long history of the From Hell movies, like The Roommate from Hell. Right. This is The Nanny from Hell. So I mean, I barely remember. I've seen it a few times, and I don't remember her specifically in it. Besides her death. She was in a greenhouse and somehow broke glass and killed her. Anyway, so she's in a couple of other small things. The first thing I ever saw her in where I'm like, that's Julianne Moore. She shows up as an ER doctor with the brightest red hair in the world and with strange chemistry with Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive.
Yeah, I've seen The Fugitive. I don't remember.
Whenever Harrison Ford is in he's searching the hospital trying to get records of the guy with one arm. She's an ER doctor who recognizes he's like, you're not who you say you are, and like trying to chases him off. She's in it for like 2 minutes, but you have seen that. Okay, good. So she gets her Oscar. So after this point, she's in a pair of movies that really bring her to critical prominence. One is a movie in 1993 directed by Robert Altman, a huge film with a bunch of people in it called Shortcuts. Famously in that movie, she is naked from the waist down for minute at a time during this conversation with her husband, very famously in this movie. She's in a movie by the director Todd Haynes, who she's collaborated with a long time, in 1995 called Safe. So she's finally starting to get some critical prominence as well. She finally, like, everybody in the world kind of knows who Julianne Moore is because she was alongside Jeff Goldblum and Vince Vaughn in The Lost World Jurassic Park.
Yep.
A movie everybody saw and everybody was collectively disappointed in because it wasn't the first Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Definitely seen it, and you're just like, well, it wasn't the first one, but yeah, that was fine. So she gets her first Oscar nomination in Boogie Nights in 1997. The next year in 1998, one of her more famous roles, kind of her history of the Coen brothers as well beginning. How about as Maud in Maud Lebowski in The Big Lebowski?
I have.
You have
seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. But again, I don't remember her.
She very much disappears into her roles. It's probably one of the best things you could say about her is she really,
yes.
Yeah. So as far as, a lot of times, like, she's in these big movies and she kind of doesn't miss at this point. Like, everything she's in, she's like, everybody's on board with, either financially or critically. Did not happen at the other half of 1988. Have you seen the remake of Psycho with Vince Vaughn?
No.
Oh, so she is it's her, Viggo Mortensen, Vince Vaughn, and Anne Heche is in the remake of Psycho. It's a shot-for-shot remake that is very, very not good. I couldn't tell you why it's not as good, but just happens to not be very good. She gets her.
There's a lot of potential there too.
There's a lot of potential. Like, you could do something interesting, but instead director Gus Van Sant,
like, a remake a Psycho, and then he just fucked it off. I guess.
They did it shot for shot from the Alfred Hitchcock thing, and it doesn't. I don't know why they did that. Anyway, so she's starting to go. She's balancing bigger things and smaller things. 1999 was a big year for her. She was in a couple of different things. She gets. So she does her second collaboration with Paul Thomas Anderson after Boogie Nights. Have you seen Magnolia?
Oh, remind me.
It's a story about a bunch of different people doing a lot of different goofy things. Her husband is dying. She's a younger woman who married an older rich man. Tom Cruise is in it. He has and John C. Reilly. Frogs rain from the sky at one point.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, see, your Paul Thomas Anderson is kind of up and down because he makes Boogie Nights, he makes Magnolia. You're just like, okay, it's like, I'm not really on. But then he also made There Will Be Blood. And so.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm of the belief that Paul Thomas Anderson has 4 5-star movies. And There Will Be Blood is one of them. So I'm a little biased on him, but anyway. So her second Oscar nomination, I wanted to include all of her Oscar nominations in this because I wanted to see if you'd even heard of this. In 1999, with co-starring Ralph Fiennes, The End of the Affair. Nope. I'm not surprised. And if you have heard of any of her other Oscar nominations, I'll be surprised. So we'll see. 1999, The End of the Affair and Magnolia at the same time. She does a couple cameos in some movies. 2001, we've talked about it before, obviously, in our Silence of the Lambs episode. She steps into the shoes of Jodie Foster in Hannibal.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't think she does a bad job. It's just an impossible test. You can't.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's fine, but you can't step
good.
into it. Yeah, you can't step into that iconic role and expect it to somehow make it your own.
Well, it's kind of like the Jurassic Park deal is like all the subsequent Jurassic Parks. You're like, it's not the first Jurassic Park.
You're chasing that feeling you got from the first one. You're never going to get it. Yeah, I agree.
You're chasing the the dragon. You know, you're chasing the high from your first hit. You know,
exactly. 2002, banner year for her. She is one of very few performers to be nominated for 2 Oscars in the same year. She was nominated for Best Actress I think it's her best performance. It is a movie you have never heard of. It's called Far From Heaven.
Nope.
It's a really interesting, it's kind of like a melodrama movie. She befriends, this is the 1950s. And she's like an idyllic housewife, and she befriends a black man played by Dennis Haysbert, and it kind of becomes a scandal. But the fact that her husband is a homosexual is not really much of the scandal for some reason. Her husband is Dennis Quaid. It's a really, really well done movie. It's very deep in themes and stuff like that. Gets an Oscar nomination, but loses to her co-star in the other movie she starred in 2002, The Hours. Nope. She got a supporting actress nomination for The Hours. She plays a depressed housewife again. Her co-star was Nicole Kidman, who played Virginia Woolf, who ended up winning best actress that year. Okay, so you are. So I'm not. Again, nothing is surprising me so far. She hasn't really done many romantic comedies up to this point until 2004, a movie a lot of people really hate. My wife loves, and I can very much tolerate. Have you seen the film Laws of Attraction?
No.
Her and Pierce Brosnan are divorce lawyers who inevitably fall in love. It's cute. I think it's cute. A lot of people hate it. I'm not surprised. Though you haven't
never heard of it.
This is what you see. I'm skipping. See, film Twitter is such a weird place because people are like, come on, man, you're skipping Map of the World and the shipping news and Trust the Man, the prize winner of Defiance, Ohio. Like, yeah.
So that'd be a no, and a no.
That's why I skip them. It's like, there is zero chance you have seen these type of movies. So I'm trying to get something that possibly you could see.
To our film critic side of the audience.
Yes.
And we appreciate each and every one of you.
Yes.
But you got to understand the other half of this podcast is the common man. It's the goofball that's just looking for something to watch on Netflix on a Saturday night or a movie to take his wife to or some shit. Yes.
It's like, so you shouldn't be surprised when Jake's never seen The Myth of Fingerprints. Like, it's like,
nope.
If I've been like, I've never even heard of this movie, then you can be outraged. But no. Jake's time's valuable. He's just like, he has to.
I'm a busy man.
All right. So one you might have seen. One of my favorite movies of all time. In 2006, the post-apocalyptic movie Children of Men.
Yes.
I love Children. Obviously, like I said.
Gerard Butler, right?
Clive Owen.
Yes. I always get them mixed up.
Yeah. A world where women can't have kids anymore.
Yes.
And
yeah. Oh, yeah.
An exceptional.
That's a great movie.
That's a great one. We're going to do it eventually just because of how much I love it. And there's a lot to get into with all that and kind of all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. But she's in it for, 20 minutes and then gets shot in the neck. So the next year or 2 years later, excuse me, pairing with Shia LaBeouf, I just wanted to include this because she doesn't really she has a very distinctive voice, but she doesn't really do many voice actors. Have you seen the movie Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf? It's kind of a modern day paranoia thriller. And she is like a computer AI. She's the voice of a computer AI that essentially is trying to control the world and stuff like that. Again, not really surprised.
No.
All right. 2010, snubbed of an Oscar nomination, in my opinion. But a Best Picture nominee, playing a one half of a lesbian couple who reconnect with the sperm donor that brought them their two children, played by Mark Ruffalo. The Kids Are All Right.
Nope.
Again, not surprising. Now, this will be surprising. The other romantic comedy, the one she is most known for, in 2011, Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah.
Yep. She's having a lot of fun with that. Looks really pretty in that. Just, the kind of role that is like, if you're doing all this heavy stuff, you want to do Crazy Stupid Love to have fun. Now, she finally won her Oscar back in 2014. She won her Oscar as a woman with early onset Alzheimer's. It is co-starring Kristen Stewart, a couple other people, including Alec Baldwin, winning the Oscar in 2014. Have you heard of the movie Still Alice?
Nope.
This is not surprising. It's funny how insulated a film Twitter type place can be, where you're like, I can't believe he hasn't heard of Still Alice. It's like, why are you surprised at this? It's like it didn't make a whole lot of money. It was very well received, but it was very small. And it was essentially tailored around the fact that she was probably going to get an Oscar nomination for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with anything, I mean, the film, I mean, when you're talking about film critics and reviews of films and stuff like that, you're going to develop an echo chamber.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You're talking, so I could get on a gun or knife forum and know exactly what we're talking about. But if I ask you about Damascus Steel or, which one's better, a 40 cal or, a 45 or a 9mm or a 10mm,
I would have no opinion. Yeah, exactly. It's
we all get into your own echo chambers.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I got two more for you. I'm going to include these next two as one, just because it's part one and part two of a movie. So I know you're not a big franchise guy, but did you see the last two Hunger Games movies? She is the president of the new. She's like the rebel president.
Which one was it? The second one?
Mockingjay 1 and 2. She was in both of them.
Okay. I've definitely seen the first. I think I saw the second.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll
see the second. I don't think I saw the third.
I'll give you the point for those.
Is there a third?
There's the first one, the first Hunger Games. There's Hunger Games Catching Fire, and then there's Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. So it's essentially. Now, I know I've seen both of those movies. I don't hardly remember anything about them. The first two I really liked, but I don't remember the last two, essentially.
Yeah, I think I watched the first two. I think that was it.
Okay. But so she has the president in those. And then the last one for you, another sequel, but a sequel you might have a chance to see. Did you see the original Kingsman, The Secret Service?
Yes.
Did you see Did you see the sequel?
I did.
She's the bad guy in the sequel.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I like the Kingsman. I think we watched the first one together. At my house.
I think you might be right. Yes.
Yeah.
And then they made a prequel with Ralph Fiennes, which I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about it as far as enjoyment. So yeah. And she's been in a bunch of other stuff. There's this movie, it comes out in a couple of weeks. I saw it Sundance last year called When You Finish Saving the World. She's intolerable in that movie. She's a good actress, but the character she's going to be in some other stuff. She's getting an Apple thriller coming up. But you did significantly better than I expected. But you've a lot of times you've seen the movies, but you don't necessarily remember her.
Yeah, that seems like most of them is like, yeah, I've seen it.
Like, what do you think? What's the movie you think of when you think of Julianne Moore?
Probably the Silence of the Lambs sequels.
Yes, Hannibal. Yes, you're probably right.
Hannibal.
And it's not even necessarily something that's like, oh, she was really good. It's like, no, I just remember it. Like, I agree.
The redhead lady there.
The redhead lady there. Jake, really impressed. You got 10. You got 10 out of 18. Hand That Rocks the Cradle, The Fugitive, Jurassic Park, Big Lebowski, Magnolia, Hannibal, Children of Men, Crazy Stupid Love, Hunger Games, and then Kingsman Golden Circle. Pretty good. You went 1 for 5 in her Oscar nominations, and the one you saw is the one we just showed you. So I'm not surprised. And the other ones that I threw in there were a little niche as well. So it's part of the deal. You're the common man. I don't expect you to be having to see every single thing.
I can't watch everything here.
I get it. All right, buddy. I think it's just about that time.
Yeah, it is. You're in the hot box.
Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's trivia, sometimes it is not. What do you have for me today, buddy?
Okay, I'm mixing it up today.
I like it.
So you're kind of off the hook. This isn't going to involve a lot of questioning.
Okay.
Of you. So
okay.
You can kind of take it easy.
Okay. I like it.
But so for our viewing audience with this film, I thought it's 2023.
Sure.
It's a new year.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously have your scale. You know, you rate movies
0 to 5 stars. Yes.
0 to 5 stars.
Yes.
Right. And I'm kind of like a like it or don't.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But I enjoy the visual aids.
Yes. I like it too.
It helps me understand, and I feel like I can convey things better.
Okay.
So I've developed so far what I'm calling the 2023 movie matrix.
Okay. I like it.
Okay. I've had my R&D team on this round the clock. And this is what we came up with.
Okay.
Okay. So just quickly.
Okay.
And this might be backwards.
Okay.
Is it backwards on the
one? Yeah, it's fine. We'll follow along.
We'll figure it out. Okay. So as I see it, so this part of the graph represents my expectation level.
Okay.
When I start out with a movie and then / enjoyment.
Okay.
So where I start expectation wise, then the enjoyment can go up and down from there.
Okay.
This part of the graph represents time. Okay. Roughly 15 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes, generally 45 minutes, and halfway through the movie. Okay. Then it's 3-dimensional here.
As it continues.
So this is the halfway point of the movie, and then we come back here. So this is an hour and a quarter, hour and a half.
Okay, I understand.
1.75
up to 2 hours. Okay.
You're back to the finish.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So movies. So just to do a quick demonstration before I give my grade on Boogie Nights.
Okay.
Name a movie that we have done, and I'll show you how it works on the graph.
Okay. How about No Country for Old Men?
Okay. So I had already seen it and already know I liked it. So that would be high expectation, high. Okay. And it would go.
Stays high the whole time.
About something like that.
I like it.
Name another one.
Okay. Let's switch things up a little bit. And how about instead do The Lobster?
Okay. Excellent example. So that one, movies I haven't watched, I try to stay neutral.
Sure.
But there's some I just have a bad feeling about.
Okay.
This was one of them. So really, it was fairly low expectation level.
And it just never got better. Okay. Is that okay?
So you kind of understand how that works?
I gotcha. And then, then something like, let's say, Brokeback Mountain, which you had probably low expectations for.
Great example. Yeah. So we're probably down here expectation level, if I'm honest.
Yes.
And I get into it and
okay. Makes sense. Yes. I understand. Yes.
Okay. So now that we understand that.
Okay. Oh, I love the visual aids. I really do.
I've had a team working on it. It's
round the clock.
It's ridiculous. Okay. So same scale.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
But I'm going to do this in real time.
Okay.
Okay. Boogie Nights. I did a pretty good job of starting out neutral.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Whoop. I just knocked my mic over.
It happens. It happens.
All right.
So you're starting neutral.
I did a pretty good job staying neutral.
Okay.
All right. I was intrigued. It kept me engaged.
Okay.
I would say.
And so at this point, we're almost to we're getting close to Little Bill killing himself.
Right. Yeah. So I'm kind of I don't know yet.
Okay.
But I'm sticking with it.
You're still there. Yeah. Yeah. It's you're not like this is going nowhere. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And we kind of reach a climax where I kind of feel like, okay, this could be a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know yet. Okay. This is halfway point.
Okay.
I started getting real disappointed.
Okay.
And then it kind of picked up a little. And then it was just constant disappointment. After that, and then, wait, listen, Ben.
I'm listening.
At the end, I wanted it just to be over. Okay?
Okay.
And so, but there is a moment at the very end, you know, where you kind of see how people end up at least.
Yes.
And I was also glad it was just over at that point.
Sure.
So it picked up for me and I wound up down here. And like at this point,
yeah,
I would call that the climax.
The climax. Okay. Yeah, that's oh, Jake, you really got me. Yeah, I was thinking, I thought you were I was thinking, it's like, I like this idea. I really like the graphing of all of it. And then, man, you really sunk me hard.
No, we can use this in the future.
That's good to know.
But if anyone wants to know what Boogie Nights is like, there you go. All right, Ben. Well,
an excellent ending. An excellent ending for the Boogie Nights episode, Jake. You have really outdone yourself this time.
Do you want to?
I don't think I can turn off your camera.
Well, I mean, we could end it like the movie ends.
You know, I'm a Jake. You're a star. You're a big, bright, shining star. But I don't think I think we can just take your word on it. Okay.
This movie sucks. Don't go watch it. It's gross. I'll never watch it again.
So that is Jake's film rating. My film rating.
There you go.
5 out of 5. It's one of my favorite films of the decade. No.
That's not a good graph, folks.
You know, agree to disagree, Jake. You know, this is why we do this, because occasionally we'll disagree on things. Do you have anything else before we go? Like you said,
don't let your kids watch this shit.
Not listen. The movie either. My
kids aren't old enough to watch this, and I'm 38, and I don't think I was fucking old enough to watch this. So.
All right, guys. I think that just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic Common Man podcast. Thank you so very much for joining us. It will never be topped, whatever Jake just did. You can follow me on Twitter at NebHasBeen, on Letterboxd and Neb810, on Instagram at Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, Ice Cream for Freaks, as you can follow my other writing on the film experience of Cinema Scholars. You can find me on other pods in the Daily Foods of Podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you? In it on the next to a church parking lot in the middle of nowhere?
Nah, I don't know on this one.
10 if you show it to me, 20 if I do something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'm in a pickup truck with a weird guy. Yeah.
Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Comment Pod. Please like, subscribe,
for $1,
rate and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. We'll be in a much livelier mood next week. We are going to discuss the full movie, but we're going to discuss mostly the USS Indianapolis scene. We're going to get into Jaws next week, and it's going to be great. We'll it's going to be fun. We'll see you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll geek out about it. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks so much.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?